recording now. Okay, cool. Let's start our community call and ask me anything session. Today we have Yannick as from the Figment Learn project, and we're here to talk to him and ask him questions about Figment. I want to give the stage to Yannick first to give us an introduction to Figment Learn and what they are doing. We've been experiencing a lot of exposure on BrightID side, verifying people on BrightID so that they can start using Figment Learn. It's super popular in the community, and I'm super curious about Figment Learn. I want to know more. I want to learn what it actually is because people are super excited to get there and start using it. Yannick, please.
Perfect. Well, thank you for having me, and let's learn about Figment Learn. So very quick background on Figment so that Figment Learn makes more sense. Now we got there, makes more sense. So Figment is a professional validator that launched about 3 years ago. Today we operate on over 35 mainnets, I believe. And in 2020, we decided to venture into the developer ecosystem tooling and developer education and developer infrastructure space. So we started out with our first product called DataHub, which is an infrastructure service similar to Infura for top Web3 protocols. So I think today we support 11 or 12 top Web3 protocols. And as we were interacting with devs that were looking to build their first apps, we realized that one of the biggest issues was, yes, infrastructure, but also access to documentation and education, right? Devs have a hard time to compare protocols, find the right one for them. Even when they find the right one, then what can they build on it? How do they build that stuff? There's definitely a lack of tutorials outside of the Ethereum ecosystem, and especially if you're used to being a Web 2 dev, the amount of documentation in Web 3 is abysmal. So that's why we launched Figment Learn. So Learn started by aggregating and standardizing the documentation of all the protocols that we support in our infrastructure product. So it allows you to compare protocols super easily, get the information you need, or at least an overview of each of them. And then the API can be consumed in the same way. So it becomes super easy to test a few protocols to find the right fit. Then where we've partnered with BrightID is on the incentivized learning and sharing experience. So basically, we partner with foundations. So far, we've partnered with Near, Cello, Secret, and Avalanche. And Polkadot is coming up. That's a bit of big news. I don't think we've actually spoken publicly about this. Basically, we create what we call pathways. So usually the intro pathway is made of 5 tutorials that take a dev from connecting to a node using our infrastructure service, all the way to writing and deploying their first smart contract on that given protocol. So they do everything using our infrastructure for free. And when they complete the tutorials, then they earn tokens. So for example, right now you can earn $20 in AvaX or Avalanche tokens for completing the Avalanche pathway. To make sure that people are not abusing the system and are there simply for learning and not obviously for gaming the reward system, we've integrated BrightID as a identity solution that's not too restrictive. We've made a point to push back or refuse to use KYC as much as possible because we think that the global Web3 community should be as inclusive as possible. So we'll see. So far, we've been very happy with BrightID. I think it's a really cool way to connect with community members. We've been running our own connection parties as well as sending people to the BrightID community. So loving the experience so far. And also one thing I'd like to add regarding Learn is that we don't stop at tutorials that we create ourselves. We're also basically open sourcing tutorials from the community. So we're reaching out to community members who'd be interested to write technical tutorials about specific topics, and we pay them $500 in tokens for creating a tutorial and publishing it on Learn. So really trying to grow this into the Web3 knowledge base and grow the adoption of Web3 and grow the developer base as well.
Oslar, do you want to see if we have any questions? I actually have a question. So it seems that Figment Learn is starting out with protocols, which I think is a great place to start for developers, because like you said, that's a lot of times when you're just starting out with a new project, your first question is, well, what protocol should I use? What blockchain should I build it on? So I think that's cool. What are some of the, like, when you get to the point where you move beyond protocols, what are some of the other areas or topics or things that maybe people could get paid to master?
Good question. You know, we're staying away from like how to use specific dApps, for example, because again, we want to help devs master Web3 and start building cool applications. And at the end of the day, that's our, that's where we benefit from this whole Learn movement. If people start building real applications using our infrastructure, then that's great for us. So to what degree we'll move to, let's say, deeper in the stack and talk about specific dApps, I'm not sure yet. I think we'll stay as high level as possible and just complement the kind of artillery that's accessible for a dev, right? It's more about making devs better and giving them more tools than helping devs promote their own applications through the pathways, because we do have something coming up that is kind of inspired by a product hunt, if you will. So there will always be ways within the Learn ecosystem to promote what you're doing. But I think from the tutorial standpoint, we're really interested in, how to bring devs to build cool stuff.
Yeah, cool. So what about dApps that are like, that seem to become like these core Lego pieces that get used all the time, like something like Uniswap or something, where it's just like, it's almost like this Lego that you want to be able to figure out how to use the contracts and incorporate it into your contracts. So I know you're doing a bunch of different blockchains, and Uniswap obviously is only on one blockchain. So you're already narrowing things down probably more than you want to do at this point. But yeah, I mean, do you foresee any of these building blocks other than blockchains being big enough that they're worth their own pathway on Figment Learn?
Great question. I think absolutely, but the only reason we're not doing it today is that the ecosystems we're supporting are not mature enough, right? We're not supporting Ethereum today because we wanted to make an impact outside of that ecosystem that is already pretty well served by various players. When we're going to see a more established Uniswap version on a Near, on a Cello, for example, and that they have tokens that they're willing to distribute to users, I think that becomes interesting if we see that it's valuable as part of a dev stack, right? We don't need to promote projects. We need better devs. So that's the thinking.
Can I ask a very new question and
Sure.
see how you see your approach different compared to Rabbit Hole?
Yeah, sure. So Rabbit Hole, I think, is more about actual dApp users, right? It's how to use a given app, how to, what are the basics of this dApp or this protocol so that they can learn to, buy the tokens, interact with the wallet, stuff like that. We're all about practical tutorials for devs that teach them how to create their own applications. And they do all of that, again, through our node infrastructure. So we're able to track their progress through the tutorials. So we know if they've done the request properly. We know if they've done each step properly. So it's more of almost a code academy for Web3 in some way than Rabbit Hole, which I do respect a lot what they're doing. We're just not necessarily going after the same audience because devs are more integrated in our current value offering.
I see the point there. So am I right to say that you're addressing more of a developer-based audience, and Rabbit Hole is focusing on the users and how they use the app?
Absolutely, that's right. Yeah, I mean, we ideally today we like only devs to do the pathways because they are pretty technical and they require somewhat of at least a basic developer understanding or developer knowledge, right? We've seen people with no coding experience actually do the pathways, but they, I don't think they learn as much as someone else who has some basic understanding of what's happening. So for sure, I think we need numbers sort them and not learn as much as we would like to, but in general terms, pathways are made for devs.
So is there any way to get a peek at what one of the pathway programs looks like, just to see like what kind of how hands-on is it, and what kinds of things are you doing? I feel like I'm kind of maybe behind a little bit on that because I haven't gotten in and learned anything about these protocols I don't know about yet. So I need to get on that. But
of course,
I'm curious if you have like maybe either a video or if we or
actually yes. So I can do a couple things. We do have videos for all our pathway tutorials.
Okay.
So that's easy for anyone to have a look at. I can screen share right now if you want and show you what it looks like from a DataHub dashboard perspective, like what you see in your infrastructure dashboard, because the tutorials are all embedded in there. Okay, perfect. Log in as 1 second. Let's say Avalanche. Okay. Can I share my screen?
Yes, you should be able to.
Okay. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Cool. So we're logged in to DataHub, our infrastructure service. I haven't done any requests, but usually you would see your activity here. So I logged into Avalanche. I see my current plan, daily usage rate. I can upgrade if I feel like I need more requests and more throughput and more support. You can rotate your API keys, obviously. Here you can see your services that you have access to. So for Avalanche, we support both the testnet and the mainnet. And here's the meat of the Learn section. So as you can see, we have the 5 tutorials that are part of the intro pathway. I've already clicked on start in the past, so sorry about that. But basically, you would click start. It would open, I don't know if it's a new page or you're still on DataHub. Okay, I'll show you the tutorial after that. So I'll open the tutorial on Learn, go through the code, execute the requests, and when I've executed everything, I can verify. And when we do verify, our checks will look at what's been done, make sure that the API was used in the proper places, and that you've actually went through each step of the tutorial. So you'll be able to go through each step like that, start, verify, and at the end, simply click on Submit to Earn. Then you'll be asked for your phone number. So you get a one-time password to verify that you have a real phone number. We'll ask for your wallet address to receive the tokens if you passed all checks, and then you'll have to verify with BrightID. So after going through the BrightID verifications and the connection parties, you'll be able to simply scan the QR code, and then you're done. In And on every Fridays, we send basically the new batch of tokens and the payouts. So that's for DataHub. I don't know if you can see this new page on Learn.
Yeah, we see
No?
it.
Yeah, okay, excellent. So for example, this is the first tutorial for Avalanche, connect to an Avalanche node with DataHub. So it's very complete, I'd say. Even for beginners, they are able to go through it and figure everything out. As I said, you'll have the links for the videos if you prefer that to text. So you'll have basically a guided experience through the tutorials. And then you'll have everything step by step with the code snippets. It's not copy paste. You're gonna have to think a bit for yourself, but we do help you a lot. There's a lot of information out there to make sure that even beginners and especially people that don't know anything about Avalanche are able to go through the whole process. So that's a bit of the format.
Right. So it's if I'm understanding that you would be running this on your own
terminal.
Yeah, your own terminal. It's not like a in-browser terminal or something.
Not yet. Coming up though.
Okay, but you're thinking about maybe doing that. That could be interesting.
Yeah, I think we'll bring a crypto zombies-like experience to all those pathways very soon.
Cool. Yeah. So, and then after they've prepared, so once they've prepared the stuff that they've written for submission, do they just upload a bunch of files, or what is the submission process for completing?
Yeah, they don't even have to upload any files or GitHub repo because they're doing the tutorials using their unique DataHub API key. So we're actually looking at our database and we can see what requests they've done. So we can verify that they've actually done the tutorials properly. So aside from a phone number, a wallet address, and the BrightID verification, they don't need anything.
Yeah, I like that.
Cool. So I see you've got Avalanche as a campaign running right now, and a few others. Are these ones that you've done in the past, and like the reward period is over, or are they ones? Yeah. Can you talk about
good question. So usually we try to keep rewards for the intro pathway for maybe the first 700 submissions that are accepted. For Near, Cello, and Secret, we kind of extended that because, I mean, the token prices went so crazy that we've been sitting on much more tokens or value in token than we started. So we decided to extend it, but we paused it right before launching Avalanche because it was a lot of opportunities running at the same time. But what we do basically is, as I mentioned, we pay contributors from the community to write more advanced tutorials, right? So we always cover the basics, but then what about, launching your own NFT? How about launching your own NFT marketplace, your own DEX, having more advanced smart contract interactions? So for those topics, we look to the community to build those tutorials, and then we'll build more advanced pathways from that content as well. So basically for Near, we're going to launch an NFT pathway next week, I believe, where people will learn how to create and deploy their first NFT, both in Rust and assembly script, and then create their own marketplace for that NFT and assembly script. And then people will be able to earn from that pathway as well. So it's always like, here's the intro content, the first early adopters, if you will, get rewarded for that, and then just wait, train yourself, and then soon you'll have more opportunities to learn and become a better dev.
Yeah, and you said for developers that create tutorials, that there's a reward for that. Is that kind of like a flat reward, or is that based on like how people rate it, or how useful it is, or how many people like it, or?
Yeah, so that fee, because we do filter what's posted and what's accepted, right? So usually the process is we'll reach out to a dev that's already contributed in a community or that's been super active, or we'll receive inbound from someone who's been diving deeper into a given ecosystem. We'll work with them to decide on a tutorial topic or even tutorial series. We've had some users create up to 7 tutorials back to back. And then they'll publish a PR to our GitHub repo. Our team will comment, review the tutorial with them, and we'll work with their team to get to a final result that's satisfactory for both parties. So it's never just like, publish 100 words and get a flat fee. We do work with those contributors, but it's worth it. I mean, it's $500 in tokens. Our earliest contributor who started writing tutorials on Near maybe in December probably made $5,000, $10,000 out of those tutorials. So it's a pretty good way to just push yourself to improve your knowledge into a given field, a given topic, and make some money out of it.
What's the process for a new protocol, like putting their first tutorial on your platform?
Right. So first, we need to have DataHub, our infrastructure service, live for that protocol, right? Otherwise, we can't really help devs and we can't track their progress, so it doesn't work. 2, usually we'll work either with the foundations or the community pool. So for example, with Polkadot, we closed a grant from the community pool for $50,000 dots that will be allocated to the community. And that's usually our process, right? It's not, I decide to go live on Learn. There's a lot of work to do upstream with our team and basically to work on getting a proper allocation for the community. Because frankly, with the amount of traffic and interest that we have, someone who's committing $5,000, we'll see that disappear in like 2 days. I think we're at about 2,500 people in our community now, and everybody's very happy to get rewards. So we usually, that's why we started with the bigger names. I think it attracted a great community for us, some early enthusiasts, and they also have a decent treasury to work with. And then we'll adapt the model as we grow and we improve, but today that's usually it. Foundation will allocate $50,000 in tokens, which 100% goes to the community. Figment doesn't touch anything from that.
I guess, so then what is your revenue model? How do you guys survive?
Yeah, good question. So, well, we have the staking side of things that is a bit separate, but the reason why we do Learn is that we want to create better devs that create, killer dApps at the end of the day. And we hope that they do it through our infrastructure service because that's how they learned how to build on blockchain. So we're really playing the long game where our infrastructure service is free up to a certain level of request. And we hope that, as devs get accustomed to a chain, learn about NFT marketplaces or DEXs, then they will build their own versions and they will start paying for DataHub as they grow their solution.
Very cool.
I really like that, real revenue model instead of, I get the value that can be created by sort of the vaporware that so many projects are doing now, but I like that you're actually, we hope that people will really use our product for a long time in the future. Yeah.
I think that's what Plaid did in the fintech world. Like one of their first customers was Robinhood when they had like 5 employees, right? So it's kind of the same approach where we want to grow with that ecosystem, and our bet is that by being the brand name for all those new entrants, we'll win if the ecosystem wins.
Yep. And it's exactly the same model that BrightID took. It's like,
exactly.
Right, a bunch of things will actually use this. And in the long run, if they find it useful, great. Then like value will accrue to the thing that everybody uses.
Absolutely.
So I have one question. Even if Ethereum well is widely used everywhere, and you just like onboarding another blockchains, are you not like willing to at least like put something on Ethereum? Because well, if Ethereum 2.0 ships, I don't know if probably of these other chains are going to be as big. So
Yeah, absolutely. So it's not a we hate Ethereum and it will never be there. It's there's already some strong competition there. There's already some strong players. There's a lot of options for new entrants that are looking to learn how to build on Ethereum. So today it made more sense to become the brand name in that 90% ecosystem that's not Ethereum, and then kind of grow into Ethereum slowly when we don't depend on it. So absolutely, but we made a long-term bet. Some companies will go for Ethereum right away and don't not care about the others because that's where the devs are today, and they're more mature applications. We're in a position where we're able to make that longer-term bet and grow with those blockchains. And frankly, on maybe 90% of the chains that we're on with DataHub, our infrastructure service, we are the only service like that that's available. So we don't want to be the only solution, but the worst solution. We want to be the obvious solution because we're the best solution on those networks. And side note, Carlos, I love your mural and love that ferocious.
yeah, I was happy to get it.
Oslar, do you see any other questions?
I had a question. So Yannick, I believe that you guys are the first to use a next layer up of verification from BrightID, where in addition to the regular base level 0, you also have a layer of, hey, have you connected to our seed? I think that's great. I'm curious how that process has been going for you, how it's received, and what you're actually doing with it internally.
Yeah, sure. So initially, we wanted to be more flexible with how we were going to use BrightID for our checks. We didn't want to enforce, being verified through a connection party, but frankly, we had a lot of people try to abuse the reward system. So we decided, what, going through a connection party is a lot of effort for somebody who doesn't care, but very little effort for somebody who's there for the long run. So we said, basically, screw it. The day we announced the launch of Avalanche, we integrated with BrightID and forced a level one verification, where basically a user, no matter how many other users he's connected to, if he's not connected to someone on your team or ours through one of our connection party, then he can't get rewards. We were received initially by those that were not too happy to not get rewards faster. Very well received by anyone who had been in the community already and saw that we were having that problem. For jumping on a connection party and saying hi and joking with people for 15 minutes is actually a pretty great experience if you just want to shoot shit and be part of the community. So I'd say we have a lot less of those problematic users and a lot more of great conversations since then, and a lot less trouble on Fridays with the payout. So far it's been a great experience. Are we blocking users from a learning experience? No, because they can still do the pathways if they really don't want to connect and they really don't want to show their face. But usually it's not a problem.
So kind of going further with that, do you see there being some rewards where it would make sense to be even stricter, like maybe you have to have denser connections, or connect more frequently? Or do you think that it's just about, like, the hoop that they're going through now is just about right?
Good question. So, and that's actually what I'm going to be working on this afternoon. So, good timing. I think level 1 is enough for now. What I'd like to do, we're going to be launching Learn V2 in maybe 3 to 4 months. And at that point, we're going to get in, a gamification system, a reputation system. It's going to be more of a standalone platform, more than just Gitbook. So at that point, I think we'll take some part of the Reddit playbook, and basically you want $5 in rewards, you better be connected to BrightID, and that's fine even if it's first week. But you're not getting to that, $20, $50 in rewards if you've been around for 2 days. You need to show us that you've actually built stuff on those networks, that you've been around, that you've participated in the community. So I think BrightID at this stage gives us exactly what we want as like the first barrier to entry. And then we're going to use our own kind of reputation system to build that progressive reward system for our community.
Yeah, sounds really cool.
As you guys get more and more advanced tutorials for the different platforms, are you maybe thinking about having like certification kind of things where folk can use this as like a resume piece or something like that?
Great question. Actually, that's something we've talked a lot about with a few of our foundation partners. My short answer would be I'd like to. I think that would be an obvious way to add value to the ecosystem, where not only can you get trained, but you can find a job with either a dApp that's building already using DataHub, or that's already in the Near ecosystem, Polkadot ecosystem, or whatever. But it is a lot of effort. You do have to put an actual educational team in place versus crowdsourcing knowledge. So maybe in the future, it's not a short-term thing, but we're still a startup, and we're kind of surfing on the chaos and surfing on the growth and taking it wherever it takes us, actually. So, but in like August, Learn didn't exist even as a concept. And today we're like going all in on education, and we have 2,000 users, devs, using it. Who knows what we'll be doing in terms of education in a year? Maybe we stay as just a knowledge base like we're doing, or we go all in and become the way people get their kind of Web3 accreditation. We'll see.
Okay. I don't see any questions in the chat, but in the previous week, people were thinking that we were just allowing questions from the panelists. But I just want to give a shout out to everyone. If you have a question that you want to mention, Yannick is here. Feel free to unmute yourself and ask your questions. We are all here to learn, and it's open for questions from everyone.
Maybe I was too clear. That's my problem. I always go for too long.
I think we had some great questions. I think all my questions right now got answered by other people asking. So I learned a lot today. This is good.
We're gonna turn everyone into learners then.
Yes, I love it. So Paslar, should we give the official thanks and move to the next step?
Of course, we can do that.
Okay.
Yannick, thank you for explaining Figment. I was having kind of the wrong idea about Figment. So now I understand the developers' mind into Figment, and how they would be more interested in Figment than normal users like myself. I want to
Mhm.
thank you for taking the time. I want to thank you for being so clear and open for the questions. And yeah, this is awesome. And I keep seeing a lot of people joining BrightID connection parties to experiment with Figment. So you're doing a great job. That's what I feel from the community joining the calls. They are super excited to give it a try, to learn and get their BrightID verification to start the working with Figment. So thank you, and
Good to
I
hear.
want to thank everyone else here with your nice questions. We now have a clearer idea about the Figment, and I'm gonna stop recording now so we can start a group connection together. And if you haven't been verified on BrightID, let's do that.
Thanks,
And
guys.
yeah, sure thing. I'm gonna stop recording